Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Chanel Marche, and we are in the final book within the BGBC series. This is the last book. This one is entitled Torn Between Two Lovers. When I tell you this book right here was the juiciest book, I cannot. So I'm just going to get started where it begins. So the book starts out with Lorraine, and she is just admiring her reflection in the mirror, and she's just thinking about the vows that she's about to take with her husband Leon. They're about to renew their vows. They've been married for a while, and she feels like this is something that they need to do. And so she's just there reflecting on a lot of things. And Michael, the guy that she was sleeping with, started coming into her mind, and she's thinking about that. And then she's kind of like thinking about her husband and just going back and forth with that. So Egypt, her friend, they're still friends. She knocks on the door and she was like, "Girl, you ready to do this? Are you okay?" And of course, Lorraine was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just, just trying to get prepared or whatnot." And they're just making small talk. And I believe Egypt asked her, was there anybody else that you've ever been in love with besides Leon? And of course, she was thinking about Michael, but she didn't want to tell Egypt what was going on in her mind. So she kind of like dismisses it. And besides, Leon is at the door and he wants to see her. And he comes on in. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful." And he was just ready to get it on with her because she was looking gorgeous in her dress and everything like that. And Egypt was just sitting back and watching, their interaction with each other before they took their vows. And so, of course, Lorraine was just trying to get him out of there before things got too hot and heavy. And so, of course, when Leon leaves or whatnot, he was like, "Well, don't take too long because I'm waiting on you. And then we got things to do after we take these vows. I cannot wait till I get you alone to myself or whatever." And so she's a little mortified. So Egypt is like, "Wow, like after all these years, he still desires you," and different things like that. And she was like, "Yeah, we've been through some things, but I think with us renewing our vows, things will be good." And then besides, he's still going to counseling and seeing a therapist, and we're just doing good. So anyways, she's thinking about that. She's like, "Can I just have a minute alone?" to her friend Egypt. And so Egypt leaves. And of course, when she's thinking about Michael, she's thinking about all the good times that they had, like all the amazing sex that they had. And she kind of feels like deep down inside, there's something left for him, like she loves him. And then, speaking of that, he calls her, I believe he calls her or texts her. And he was like, "What are you doing? Are you thinking of me or whatever? Like, I'm thinking of you." And she tries to just like remove that thought out of her mind, like not think about him. But she is thinking about him. She does want him. She wants to see him, but she's trying to be faithful. Here she is about ready to renew her vows. And here this Negro is on the phone. So she tries to play hardball. And she's like, "I can't do this. We cannot mess with each other. I love my husband. We're renewing our vows. And we just have to put an end and a stop to this. We can't do this. I'm trying to do the right thing." And so they hang up. And so Michael, it gets to him. And Michael, in his mind, he feels as if him and Lorraine were meant to be together. Michael has gone into the deep end. When I say deep end, I mean the deep end. He is so in love with her, he can't even think straight. That's all he does is think about her, dream about her. And he's getting to the point where he's becoming obsessed with her because now, like, because it had been a while since they actually seen each other. I think they had sex like maybe a month ago or something like that, because she still was continuously seeing him. She never stopped seeing Michael, even though her husband found out that she was messing around and she was trying to play hardball. She still was seeing Michael. But here on the day that she was supposed to renew her vows, she wanted to end this. So Michael's feeling some type of way, like she's playing games. I know she still loves me because we just slept together like a week ago, or was it a month ago or something like that. And she's just confused. And he's just getting to the point where he is following her, keeping tabs on her, just watching her every movement. So he's watching her job, just watching her movements, because he's trying to call her on the phone. She's not really answering his phone calls. He even tries to call up to the job. Of course, the secretary tells Michael, she's busy and she can't talk right now. So this Negro, he goes to a gun store. This Negro, he went there and he was interested in purchasing a gun. Now, when he purchased this gun, I was like, okay, this Negro is crazy, because why would he want to purchase a gun unless he had plans on using it? You're not going to just purchase something just to, oh, I just want this just in case. You purchase something to use it if you need to. So I was like, okay. And mind you, he doesn't know anything about guns. Like, Michael is not really the violent type from what they describe him in the book. Like, the writer described him as someone who was, decent guy, not a violent, crazy stalker type of person. So for him to purchase this gun, I was like, I don't know what Lorraine has done to this boy, but this boy is whipped. And not only whipped, he's psycho. So he gets the gun. And I'm like, oh my gosh. When he got the gun, I was like, this is finna be crazy. But nonetheless, he gets the gun and he goes about his business. He was getting ready to go over there to her, but somehow something distracted him, or anyways, he went about his way. Then it gets to Lorraine's husband, Leon. Now, Leon, like I said, he's going to this therapist. Now, he's in the therapist's office and he's talking to the therapist about what is actually going on with him, because like I said, they had some sexual problems. He ejaculates too quick, he comes too quick, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with him. And as the therapist is talking to him, I was kind of taken aback to how Leon was checking her out, and the way that the words were written, it seemed, or it was alluding to them possibly messing around. And I was like, he's in love with this therapist. But we'll get into it. So anyways, the therapist is like, okay, well, we may need to do another hypnosis session, because in the first hypnosis, they discovered that he was abused by his uncle, and he wasn't really treated really nicely, and there was just some issues with that. So when they do a second hypnosis on Leon, there's a lot of things that Leon has kind of blocked out of his mind. And come to find out, not only was his uncle abusing him, he this is disgusting, but his aunt as well, I think her name is Barbara, Aunt Barbara. He could remember, he blocked out this part. Now, this part, he did remember her always coming to the rescue, being there for him, loving him, nursing him, being kind to him. And so as the therapist was like, okay, tell me what did you like about her? And this vision or these memories started resurfacing, and he can remember how she was so fluffy, and how big her breast was, and him being in her arms or whatever, and how she will hold him and kind of like nurse his wounds back to health. and how they had shared a kiss. This wasn't like a peck of a kiss. She actually was kissing him like a grown man. And I was like, oh my God, this dude not only was being abused by his uncle, you have some sexual inappropriate things that's taking place with him. And he's only like 15 or 16 at this time. So that's very inappropriate. Now, they are not like related. They're related by law, of course. But still, you have this grown woman that is kissing this boy inappropriately. And the reason why she kissed him like that was because Leon, even though he was like 15, 16 at the time, he had told her, look, I cannot be abused no more. I can't take my uncle's hitting. He's like a ticking time bomb, and I can't walk around on eggshells. I'm going to leave. I don't know where I'm going, but I have to leave because I don't want to be abused no more. And so for her, in order to make him stay, she felt like her reasoning of getting him to stay would be if I do this, if I kiss him or appeal to him that way, he would stay here because I need him. I need him around. I guess she was possibly in a way being abused as well. I was like, this is crazy. So we uncovered that. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Then now with Jerome. Now I did make some boo-boos in the other book review. I was calling this guy that Jerome was messing with, I was calling him Paul, but his name is in fact Peter. These names, sometimes guys, I get incorrect, but his name is Peter. Now it gets to Jerome. Now, of course, Jerome and Lorraine are not friends at this current time. It's been a year now, and Jerome really doesn't have anybody. He don't have the job that he used to work at, which he was working for his friend Lorraine. He started branching out, doing his own thing, which he's not really hurting for money or anything like that. But he's not really working with his ex best friend. He lost his best friend, and things with Big Papa are not really going too good. Like, he's still flaky, and pretty much he has to wait around on his timetable when he can pencil Jerome in to come see him. So he's still going through the motions, and he's seeing all these guys or whatnot, and trying to, keep his mind occupied to get off of Big Papa, because he's really in love with Big Papa, but he's been waiting around for Big Papa. Now, mind you, him and Big Papa have been seeing each other for 6 years. Okay, so he's tired now. Jerome is tired of waiting around for Big Papa to be available, waiting around for him to make a commitment. Big Papa's married. Okay, he's married. So I don't know why Jerome was thinking in his head that Big Papa was going to leave his wife. They never leave their wife. I don't know why he was thinking this, but he slipped up, fell in love with him, and he thinks the world of him. So at this point, Jerome, I guess this one particular evening, he was supposed to meet up with him, but Big Papa flaked on him. So he was kind of like going through his little black list in his phone, and he thought he was calling this one guy when in fact he accidentally called Ron. You guys remember Ron, the young basketball college player who was looking to be in the NBA. He was seeing him, but of course, when they were messing around, that crazy stalker Peter guy had took some pictures of them in intimate spaces and settings, and it got out. And so Ron was angry at Jerome, because he felt like Jerome set him up to out him and get him to be publicly humiliated, when of course Jerome didn't have anything to do with that. But he messes around and calls Ron. And so, of course, Ron was like, why are you calling me? He was like, oh, man, my bad, man. I did not mean to call you. That was my bad. It was by accident, which it genuinely was. But what could you say? He was kind of glad in a way that he had heard his voice after a year, all this time. And so he gets to talking with him, just making a little small talk. And he was like, well, how you been? And of course, Ron was like, not really so good. And he noticed how down Ron was sounding. And so Jerome was trying to encourage him a little bit because he felt bad that all of this stuff happened. If he felt like if Ron wasn't messing with him, none of this would have happened to Ron, where with him losing, having to leave his basketball team and just being outed that way. So he was just trying to cheer him up. And he was like, well, because he could tell that Ron didn't really want to talk to him any further. So he was like, well, I want you to know that I do apologize, but I had nothing to do with that. I will never out you. I love you as a person. I care a lot about you, and I would have never done that to you. But I want to apologize and say I'm sorry that that happened to you. But I want you to know anytime you need me, I'm here for you. If you need me to you need to vent to anyone, I'm here to listen. If you need to clear your head, I'm here. You can always call me. And Ron was like, I mean, he really kind of appreciated that, but he felt like he couldn't trust anyone. So they hang up. And so Jerome started messing, I think he was messing with this guy named Freddie, or I don't know, his name started with an F. I'm not really good at remembering names, but I think his name was Freddie. And Freddie happened to really take a liking to Jerome, but Freddie is married. So, but whenever Jerome would hit him up and want to have sex or whatever, Freddie would make time for him. And so on this one particular day, Jerome had hit him up, and instead of like meeting to have sex, Freddie wanted to actually hang out with him. And so he found this to be a little bit different, but he wasn't going to like refuse a meal that Freddie wanted to pay for. And besides, Freddie said he had a little surprise for him. And so he was like, okay, whatever. So they went out and they're having dinner or whatever. And he noticed how Freddie was seeming like he was catching feelings, because he was like, this is a different setting. I know we always meet up to have sex. I don't want you to think that it's all about sex. So, I know that this is different. And of course, I'm not really all that comfortable with people, staring at us or seeing us out. I don't want to make it too obvious, but I just want you to know it's not just only about sex. And Jerome he could appreciate that, but his heart was somewhere else. So he couldn't really reciprocate the words of saying like he really care or possibly could love him. But he could tell that Freddie was really liking him or whatever. He was like, and also to show you how much I appreciate you, because, you never made a big fuss, or you never told my wife about us sleeping together, or, you just been good to me and I appreciate you so much. He pulls out a gift and he gives it to Jerome, slide it across the table. And Jerome was like, oh man, you didn't have to do this. Wow, what is this? And so he was like, just open it. He opens it and it is a Rolex. And at first he was like, there ain't no way this can be real. But after, examining it and looking at it, he was like, dang, this is a real Rolex. Like, oh my gosh, he must really, really care about me and love me and like me. He was like, well, thank you. Like, I wasn't expecting this. And he was like, well, no problems. Well, you can make it up to me later when we go back to the room to show me how much you appreciated that. And he was like, oh, definitely, I can do that. So they're just talking and laughing and enjoying their meal. And then they hear some loud voice, and she's ghetto and she's causing a scene. And sure enough, this is Freddie's wife. Freddie's wife comes up in there, see him over there, just hitting him over the head, saying, what are you doing? I was thinking that you was with a woman, but you really up here with a man. It was just chaotic. And so Jerome What could he do? He wasn't, because to look at her, she looked like she could give a man a run for his money with, being in a fight with a man. Like she probably could whoop a man. So he was just sitting there like, I'm not finna get into this. I do appreciate everything he did, like pay for this dinner and this Rolex, but I'm not about to get into that. So he's just sitting back. He wasn't about to leave his meal either. He just sitting back, eating his food, and just watch them go on out of the restaurant and him be uh hit by his wife. So they leave, and that's that scene. And so now it gets back to Lorraine and what's going on between her husband. Now Lorraine is trying to stay strong. She's actually trying to do the right thing. There's still some problems in the bedroom, like her husband is still coming, but coming too quick. But she feels like what they had, the vows that they exchanged, and the effort that Leon is putting in as far as going to the therapist to work on himself and the marriage, it feels good. She actually feels like, wow, this could actually work. He's a good man and I'm going to try to do right by him. So she's still just trying to not even think about Michael, but Michael is constantly calling her, texting her, calling her, texting her. And she says, look, she finally eventually responds and said, look, you have to go on with your life. There is no us. We cannot do this anymore. I love my husband. I don't want to cheat on my husband no more. And of course, Michael's like, I know you don't mean that. I know you love me and different things like that. And she just has to hang up on him. And so, of course, Michael, he is stalking her and he goes up to her job and he follows her out when she comes out from work, and he goes up to her and she was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Are you following me? And he was like, you leave me no choice. Like, I know you love me. I know that you are thinking about me. I know that what we had was special and it's more than just sex. Why don't you just leave your husband and be with me? We are meant to be. I've been loving you since I was a kid. Like, think about this. I know you're confused and different things like that. And at this point, she was like, you're crazy. Like, don't make me have to get the police involved because you're stalking me. And don't say you're not, because she has been seeing his car. Like, sometimes he would approach her, sometimes he wouldn't. She said, I've seen you on my lunch break. You coming by my job and you're following me and different things like that. She was like, this gotta end. This is gonna have to end. He was like, don't do something stupid where I'm not gonna be responsible for how I behave myself. Like, you're playing games with me. We made love like a month ago and you keep going back and forth with me, and we've been seeing each other all this time, and you're saying that you don't really love him and you love me when you get horny. It's just, which she was going back and forth with this Negro, which you can't play games like that. And so she was like, look, just stay away from me. I mean it. I don't want you no more. And it was tough for him because he was really like in love with this girl. Okay, period. So he would go to work and his coworkers and everybody, because he's the boss. I forget what he does, but he is the boss of the company. And so I guess his colleague was like, man, what is going on with you? Which he already knows what's going on with Jerome, because Jerome confided in this person and told him why he was sulking around, had this long face. And of course, his colleague was like, oh, it's Lorraine again, isn't it? He was like, yeah, it is. And so what if it is? He was like, look, man, you are becoming scary. The girl told you she don't want to see you no more. You need to leave her alone before the police get involved. And Michael was like, I know she's confused right now. I know she don't mean none of this. I know she loves me. There's an us and I know that we will be together. He was like, man, you need to cut your losses, because at this point you're becoming obsessive and you are becoming stalkerish. And he was like, what is your definition of a stalker? Now Michael knows that with him following her, showing up in different places, wherever she is, that's being a stalker. And basically, his colleague was just laying it all out like, look, I'm just giving it to you straight. You seem crazy. You seem stalkerish. You seem psychotic. Leave her alone. And so, I mean, he didn't want to hear that, but he could appreciate how his friend was pretty much letting him know that you need to just stop while you're ahead, because you're going to get yourself in a world of trouble. He appreciated it, but he was kind of angry back behind that and didn't want to hear it. And so Michael, he tried to get his mind mentally in a state of maybe coming to terms with, okay, maybe she don't want me. Maybe she really don't. Maybe I do need to move on, but he just could not move on. He just couldn't. He couldn't. So he's still stalking her. Now, this one particular day when he was sitting outside her job, he had figured like, okay, I've had enough of not trying to talk to her, because he did stay away from her 2 weeks. But on this particular occasion, he couldn't take it no more. So as he was about to approach her when she was coming out of her job after work, he notices that Leon picked her up from work. He was like, what in the heck is this Negro doing picking her up? Now, Michael was saying this when this is Lorraine's husband, Leon, coming to pick her up. He got the audacity to ask, what is he doing picking up his own wife? So he was like, man, he's supposed to be in his therapy sessions or whatnot. Like, what is he doing picking her up? So he decides that he wants to follow them and see where they're going. So they're driving. He was like, okay, they're going past this location and that location. Where are they going? And then things started looking familiar to him. He was like, wait a minute. I know she's not about to take her husband to the same place that was our getaway. Because Lorraine and Michael had this little getaway spot that Michael had introduced Lorraine to, that he felt was like their just secret place only for them. And besides, Michael had told her, look, this is our special place just for us. Don't take anybody else. This is us and only for us. Lorraine and her husband was going to this place where Michael told her about. So at this point, Michael was livid. He was like, how dare she take this Negro to the same spot and place that we went? That was supposed to be our little secret getaway place and hideout place. So at this point, he's pissed off. He's following them. And he watches them check in or whatever. He's making sure that he's being undercover. And so they check in or whatever. She checked into her name and they go up there to the room and different things like that. About to have a wonderful weekend because her husband Leon had a great session with the therapist, and she wanted to kind of like, celebrate them and see where the weekend would take them, to see if they can get their rejuvenation back and their lovemaking back stronger, to see what could conspire between them. And so they're up there checking in. And so this Negro, Michael, he goes up to the front desk and he was like, no, he didn't go. He don't go up to the front desk. He calls the room. He finds out somehow he finds out what room they're in. And thank God Lorraine had answered the phone in the room and she was like, hello. And he was like, listen, I can't believe you brought your husband to this place here. He said, you get down here in a second. And if you don't come down here within 5 minutes, I'm going to go up there and we going to have a good old time. And so she was glad that she answered the phone, because if the husband answered the phone, Michael would have said something to him. So anyway, she was like, She hung up, and her husband Leon was like, "Who was that?" And she was like, "Oh, it was room service or the front desk, something with my credit card. So I'll be right back." And so anyway, she went down there, and when she got down there and saw that nut Michael there, she pulls him around the corner and she said, "Look, why would you follow me when you know I'm with my husband? My husband's up there. Are you crazy?" He was like, "Look, I'm not crazy. I know you love me and I'm upset with you because why would you take him to the same spot that I told you that was reserved for us? This is our thing. This is our love. This is what we do. Why would you do that with him?" She was like, "Look, Negro, I don't know how many times I have to tell you, but there is no us. I don't want to see you no more. Listen, do not call my phone. Don't text me. Don't come by my job. Don't come by don't nowhere near me. Do not come near me. If you do, I promise you, I'm going to get the police involved. Do you hear me? Do you understand?" And he knew that she was serious at this point. And she was like, "Leave. I want you to leave. If you don't, I'm going to call the police and it's going to get really ugly." She said, "I need you to leave. I don't want you. I don't want to see you. There is no more us. It never will be. Leave me alone." So he's hurt at this point. I'm surprised he listened to her, and he walked out, and he came to terms with the words that she said to him. So he's hurt and he's moping around and he's moping around. And then his colleague tried to get him to date this girl named Celeste. Okay, which she's beautiful. I think the colleague introduced her, or I think he knew about her. Michael knew about her or tried to date her a while back. I don't know how Celeste came into the picture, but anyway, she had heard that he was no longer with Lorraine or messing with her. So she decides that she wants to come in and kind of like get his mind off of Lorraine. But he didn't really want to do it. But he figured, like, she's not a bad looking woman. She's very pretty, gorgeous woman. But his heart was somewhere else. And so his colleague was like, "Man, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, why won't you mess with Celeste? She's single. She's attractive. She's beautiful. I would give anything to have a woman like her even interested in me. And here you are, you have her interested in you and you don't even want that. You want somebody else that's already claimed." He was like, "I don't get it. You need to mess with her. If you know any better, just go ahead and mess with her. There's nothing wrong with her." And so after he kept telling Michael that, he was like, "Man, okay, I'm going to have to get over this, but I'm going to make sure that I explain to Celeste the situation." So he started talking to Celeste and he told her, "Look, I'm talking to you and everything like that, but I just want you to know that my heart is with Lorraine. And I want you to know that if she were to come back and tell me that she wants to be with me and we could be together, I'm going to be with her. I'm just going to be with her because that's where my heart is. I thought that you should know." And she was like, "Well, it's cool with me, but can you just make a promise to me that if you do decide to do that, just tell me. Just don't try to juggle her and I." And he was like, "Cool, I'll be sure to tell you that, if she were to call me, then I will tell you if we have to end this and I go back to her." She was like, "Cool." So him and Celeste started hanging out, and actually he discovered that they had a lot of things in common, that they had some similar interests. And she was a nice girl. She was a very confident girl, very secure girl. For this woman to know the the situation between him and Lorraine, he really found that to be kind of appealing. The fact that you didn't care that I just told you that my heart was somewhere else, that you were willing to take a chance, said a lot about her. He found that to be a level of confidence that he found kind of attractive. And so he was turned on by that. And he liked how she behaved herself. Like she was very poised and she knew how to conduct herself in public, handle herself in any situation. And he just began to see her how good of a woman that she is or was. He was like, wow, like he started digging her. He started forgetting about Lorraine a little bit. Not really. I mean, she was always in his heart, but Celeste was beginning to kind of like distract her a little bit, and he was liking her a little bit, and they're kicking it and having a good time, and he's actually not really thinking about Lorraine as much. It had been, I believe, 2 weeks or 2 months. Yeah, it had been 2 or 3 months since he last contacted her. He hadn't bothered her. He hadn't stalked her. He hadn't texted her. He hadn't called her. He hadn't tried to go by her job, call her job, none of that. And so I was like, wow, he did a 360-degree turnaround. I was like, it may actually work out between Michael and Celeste. And she seems to be a better fit for him. You know, she's just bringing the best out of him, kind of like. And so this one particular evening, they were kicking it out at a club or whatnot, hanging out and just having a good old time, just dancing, enjoying each other. And then all of a sudden, Celeste says, oh my gosh. And he was like, what? Because he had touched her booty or whatever. He thought she was, mad about that he was showing her some PDA in public. And she was like, no, 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 it's not that. Because he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have grabbed your booty or whatever. She was like, no, it's not that. She was like, that's the problem over there. And he looked over there and he could see Lorraine. Lorraine was there, and she was there on, I think, a business, some type of business venture or whatever. And she was staring at them like a hawk. Do you hear me? And mind you, she's with her husband, Leon, as well. And she's over there looking at Michael as if he did something wrong. Like as if she caught him cheating or whatever. And he was like, okay, ooh, she wearing that dress I like and she's looking really good. But he was confused about why she was looking like that, because after all, she told him that she don't want him, she don't need him, she don't love him, stop calling me, all this and that. And here she was kind of jealous. And he was like, dang, like here I was wanting her to pay me some attention. And now she's giving me attention now that I'm hanging out with someone else. So, of course, Celeste was like, okay, we need to go. We need to get up out of here. He was like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So, of course, Lorraine makes her way over there. And she had some words from him. And she was looking at him. And he was like, hey. And she was like, hey, or whatever. And so he went into the men's room. And I think Celeste went to go use the restroom, or she might have been waiting in the corner for him to get done using the restroom. So when he comes out of the men's room, Lorraine is standing right there. And she looking at him like he's crazy. He was like, I don't know what's up. Like, are you following me? And she was like, ha, very funny. She was like, how dare you bring this wench, this Pop-Tart up in here He was like, excuse me? She was like, yeah, out of all people, you gonna bring her? She looks slutty to me. She looked trashy to me. You have no class or whatever. Why you with her? Why you bring this skeezer up in here? He was like, excuse me, but she's not a skeezer, which he really did mean that, because she's not. He was like, she's not nothing like that. So I don't know why you judging her. She was like, well, look at that outfit she got on or whatever. She was just jealous. And so he was like, that ain't none of your business, because as I recall, you said that you didn't want to see me or anything like that and not to call you, and I haven't been calling you. And she was like, well, how dare you? How dare you be with another woman? He was just appalled. He was like, is this woman crazy? But at the same time, he was a little flattered that he had got her worked up without even trying. And so it was like, woman, you crazy, because you told me you didn't want to be with me, and I have moved on. As you can see, I'm hanging out, having a good time. So I don't know what this is all about, but I ain't got nothing to do with it. But it was great seeing you. And oh, you look good in that dress. And he goes over to Celeste. You know, Celeste, I love her too, because she was just composed. She didn't get angry. She didn't get annoyed. She didn't feel like she had to do anything. She just knew that they were together, and she didn't panic. Not one time did she flinch. And I love that about her. And of course, Michael was turned on by that too. And he walked out with her. Now, Lorraine was just sitting there looking like, see, Lorraine is a very jealous type of woman. So this is the only reason why she went off when she saw him, is because she don't like to share nothing. She's a jealous type of woman. And so this is why she was throwing a fit. And so she was like, oh my God, I can't believe that Negro came up in here with her. And she's just really pissed off. And mind you, Leon is there. So she goes over there with Leon. And so at this point, you know, she tries to stay there a little longer. Of course, she's ready to leave and get back to the room that they had or whatever. And she decides that, you know, she's going to take matters into her own hands. So anyways, Celeste and Michael, they go back to Celeste's house, because at this point they had been seeing each other for a while. And there were times before where Celeste wanted to be intimate with Michael, but of course he would reject her. And what I loved about her, again, she didn't take it personal. She was like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to give you all the time that you need, and I'll be right here whenever you're ready. I just love that about her. And he loved that about her too. The fact that she wasn't so bothered. She was so poised, and she knew how to handle herself and conduct herself. That was very attractive. And so this particular night, Michael on his own decided that, okay, I've been kicking it with her. I really like her. And so tonight is going to be the night that, you know, we're going to take this to the next level. I'm going to be intimate with her because I'm digging her. And so, of course, Celeste wanted to know, like, are we still going to do this tonight? It's okay if you don't want to. I know that, you know, you seeing her kind of rattled you a little bit, but just let me know. He was like, oh, no, we still going to do this or whatever. And so they get to kissing or whatever. And she was like, oh, no, not so fast. I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to get out of these clothes, and I'm going to shower because I have some things planned for us tonight. So we're not going to rush into this. We're going to take our time. And so he was like, oh, okay, I wonder what she have up her sleeve and what she got for me. Like, this is more and more appealing. And so he was like, okay, well, I'm going to be waiting for you down here, whatever. She was like, I got you. This is going to be the time of your life. I'm going to give you something you ain't never had. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, this is, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see what this woman going to give me, what she got for me. So she goes upstairs or whatever. She's in the shower, and she had all this stuff planned. And he's sitting down there. And then his freaking phone started ringing. And it was this ringtone that he had that was specifically for Lorraine. I forget what the ringtone was, but anyways, he heard it and he ignored it. He ignored it. He was like, no, I don't know why she calling me, but I'm here with Celeste. I'm gonna have a good time with her. I don't want to hear anything that this woman got to say. So he ignored it. So he ignored it, put it in his pocket. Then he heard some vibrating going off on the phone, and it was a text message. And so the text message read, what did she say? Something on the lines of, I'm sorry of how the way that I reacted tonight, and I want to see you. I'm tired of playing games. There's something that I want to tell you, or something like that. I'm at the Marriott. Meet me there in, what did she say, an hour? I'm going to be there till about 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning or something like that. And he tried, he was like, I'm kind of busy, maybe later, and that's all he texts. So he leaves it alone. And then of course some time had passed and she texts again. I think she texts again with question marks because it had been like 30 minutes or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, so Celeste comes out the shower. She was like, come up here, lover boy. And so he goes upstairs. And when he goes up there, he's looking at her. She's like in this fine little, I think she had a robe on at this point, and she lead him to this room. And in the room, it was dark, but then she lit it up. I think she had like some red lights or something. And he saw like this pole in the room, and she took off her robe. And when she took that off, she had on this sexy, I don't know what type of outfit it was, but it was like a stripper outfit. And he was like, oh my gosh. And he was looking at her body and everything like that. And she said, I'm just going to dance for you. And she's just working it on the pole, just teasing him, just giving him some foreplay, just everything, the way she was shaking it. He was really mesmerized. He was like, he couldn't believe how classy she was in public and sophisticated she was in public. And then behind closed doors, and you just busting it down on the pole, doing these splits, shaking it and all that, like you a freak. And he was like, yes, like this is what I'm talking about. Like a lady, classy lady in public, but then behind closed doors, you a freak. And he was like, dang, he was so appreciative and so turned on by the effort that she had put into that night. And he was like, dang. And so she was done dancing. And she goes over and they're kissing and everything like that. And then his phone started ringing. And she was like, Celeste was like, oh gosh. And he was like trying to get his mind off of the ringtone. And so they're trying to kiss. And then he stops and he was like, I can't do this. And she was like, Celeste was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, nah, I'm not kidding. I can't do this. And she said, oh, let me guess. That was Lorraine calling you on the phone. And he was like, yeah. He was like, remember when you told me to tell you if I ever were to go back to Lorraine? Well, this is one of those times. I'm sorry. He said, you're a good woman and I appreciate the effort that you put in for tonight and everything like that. I appreciate it. But then Celeste was like, you know what? No, just get out. Like everything that I was doing for you and I took this effort. If you knew you was going to go back to her, why did you even let me strip for you or even show you anything? She was like, just get out. Just get out. And I was like, dang, why did he do that? But anyways, so when he gets to his car, he calls her, but she don't answer, I don't think. But anyways, he went to the hotel. Okay. And as soon as she opened the door, they get to kissing and rubbing and all this and that. And she was saying how, oh, I love you. I love only you. I just can't leave you alone. And let's just be together. And this is the words he always wanted to hear. Michael been wanting to hear this. And so they ended up sleeping together that night. And of course, the sex is always amazing between them. And Michael is thinking that, okay, she's mine. Like she's, because she told me before that she didn't want to see me. Then when she saw me, she realized that this is where she needs to be. So we gonna be together. She gonna leave her husband. It's gonna be us. So he's thinking something else. But after her nut, after she climaxed, she's ready to pretty much, put on her clothes and go to her husband. And he was like, where are you going? And she was like, well, I need to get back to my husband's room because what this heifer did, what this Pop-Tart did, Lorraine, because sometimes her husband needs some medication to get him to relax. So she put some freaking, what do you call that? Something to relax you. Anyways, she put that in his drink. And of course, that knocked him out. And she knew it was going to knock him out for some hours. That was the only way she was able to get out that room in enough time to sleep with Michael. So he knocked out, and she know he'll be knocked out until like 4. He'll start getting up around 4 or 5 in the morning. And so after she didn't screw Michael all night, got her rocks off, she was like, well, I'm going back to my husband. I want to be there before he wakes up. I don't want him to know that I was gone. He was like, well, what about this? You said you want to be with me. Are we still seeing each other or whatever? And she was like, yeah, as long as, we can just meet up. She said, I'll tell you what, we can meet every Thursday. What works for me is every Thursday. And I think she said Saturday or Sunday, something like that. And he was like, well, what if I wanted you more than that, like more often than that? She was like, either you agree to that or we're not going to do anything anymore. And he was like, what do you mean? Like, I thought you called me here because you were sure that you loved me, you wanted to be with me, and you didn't want to be with your husband. Like, she was like, look, she started getting annoyed with this Negro. She was like, it's either that or nothing, or we're not going to see each other. And don't call me or none of that. If you can't comply to seeing me on Thursdays and Saturday or Sunday or something like that, then, we can't do this. And so he really didn't want to make a big fuss about it. And he didn't really want to give her a hard time. So he kind of like, he didn't like it, but what could he really do? I mean, there's not much that he really could have done. So, he was like, look, I can't play these games with you. Because I was with somebody. I was out with someone, enjoying myself with her. And I left that to be with you. And he was like, I'm not playing these games. And she was like, what are you talking about? He was like, look, if you keep playing these games with me, I'm not responsible for what may happen. And when he said that, I mean, she was kind of like taken aback, like, dang, what's that supposed to mean? You know? And so, which you don't play with people like that. Like, why would you the only reason why she called Michael is because she was jealous for one, and he had asked her, he was like, is the only reason why you called me to this room is because you saw me with someone else? She wouldn't answer the question. I think she kind of like said or brought up something else. And he said, is the only reason you called me over here is because you saw me with someone else? Is that's the only reason why you wanted me here? And she didn't really, he knew what time it was, but she didn't really say that. So that's why he said what he said. He was like, if you keep playing with me, I'm not responsible for my actions. And so she was like, yeah, whatever. She kissed him and go back to the room in enough time before her husband wakes up. And so, now with her husband, Leon, like I said, he's still going to this therapist. And it comes to find out that during one of the hypnosis, okay, he discovered that not only was the aunt inappropriately kissing him, they also was having sex, okay? They were having sex. And the therapist was able to get him to realize that with him being attracted to big girls, the only reason why he's attracted to big girls is because his aunt Barbara kind of like was sexually messing with him. And this is why he took a liking to big girls. And not only that, his aunt had trained him to come fast. So his body was trained to coming fast. This is why they had problems in the bedroom. And this is why he came fast. And of course, when he's realizing all this, it's just a big shocker, and he's embarrassed, he's mortified, and he didn't understand how he could block that out of his mind. So, of course, he's a little bit mortified by this, but nonetheless, when his wife asked him about his sessions or whatever, he had to break down and tell her, because Lorraine was interested, because he really didn't want to talk about the hypnosis therapy sessions. And so for a while, he was able to get away with not talking to her about it, because she would want to know what was going on, but she didn't want to pressure her husband. And so it got to a point where she really needed to know what happened in these therapy sessions, because she just wanted to know. She was like, "You're my husband. I want to know what happened in there, like what's going on." So he broke down and told her that, you know, my Aunt Barbara was actually having sex with me, and she was shocked by that. She was like, "What?" So not only was your uncle abusing you physically, you had your aunt sleeping with you sexually? And so she felt bad. She began to feel bad and sorry for her husband, but she didn't want to judge him. And she said, "You know what? I'm just going to be patient with you. I'm sorry that that happened to you. It's not your fault." Because, Leon was thinking that Lorraine was sitting up there judging him or whatever. And he felt so embarrassed. But then she kind of like was consoling him and letting him know that everything was okay and they could work through this. But she didn't know how to handle that. Like, okay, the reason why you have the problem sexually is because of that. And so she was like, "I tell you what, while you're having your little hypnosis sessions till you get everything over and done with, we can just be celibate. We don't have to have sex." And he appreciated that. He was like, "Wow, okay. Are you sure? Like, because I know you have needs too." And she was like, "No, it's fine. We could be celibate until this thing is over with. And then maybe by then, once you get that out of your system, maybe you'll be able to perform." And he was like, "Yeah, I really do believe that I'll be able to perform now that I know this issue." And I was like, "You know what? Lorraine is wrong. You just had sex with Michael. And here your husband is. He's been going to these therapy sessions, working on himself, working on the marriage. He has not had any private therapy sessions of her own, which I think she needs some counseling and therapy on her own herself. But she feels like there's nothing wrong with her. Mind you, she's cheating. She don't see that she's cheating and destroying the marriage. If this were to get out of hand, like, this girl is something else. So anyways, so she's trying to console him. Now it skips to Jerome, and of course he's still going through the motions with Big Papa. And so he's just getting tired of Big Papa. He's like, "Okay, let me get this straight. I've been trying to get this man to see me for 6 years and be with me and love me back. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this no more. This ain't working." And so one day he gets a call, when he was just chilling or whatever. And it was Ron. And Ron was calling him. He was like, look, can you come to such and such? It was a station, police station. Can you bail me out? I just need you to help me. I need you to help me. And of course, Jerome wanted to hold true to his word, because he did tell Ron that if he ever was in trouble or needed anything, he can definitely call him. And so he didn't want to back out. He was like, okay, cool, I got you. How much do I need to bring? And he was like $1,000. It was a bit steep, but he had it. And so he went out there to go bail him out. Now, when he was going out there to bail him out, Big Papa calls. And he was like, are you serious? Like, I ain't got time for this. I got something to do. He was like, why you ain't answer your phone or whatever? What are you doing or whatnot? I want to come see you. And of course, Jerome really wants to see Big Papa, because he loves this man. But at the same time, Ron really needs him. And so he was like, oh my gosh, I don't got time for this. He was like, I really want to see you. So he goes back, because he wasn't that far. He goes back to his crib because Big Papa's there. And Big Papa, I think he does have a key or whatever. And so, he said, well, dang, I could do this real quick. I can be with him, have dinner, and still make it in time to help Ron. So he does. They have their little dinner. They have sex. He flies out of there, and he was able to get to Ron in time, because I think it was like a certain type of curfew or something, or amount of time he had before he had to get there to bail him out. And so he made it. He made it in time. He bails him out. He was like, I'm sorry, I'm a little late. He was like, no, that's cool. I'm just glad you bailed me out. And when he saw him, he was so happy. Jerome was so happy to see Ron that he did hug him, but Ron, he knows how Ron is. Ron is not really out there and flamboyant. He's not out the closet yet, even though he loves men and he is gay. He's not out there like that. So he didn't really want to be doing that in public. And Jerome didn't, feel any type of way. Didn't hurt him, because he knows how Ron is. And so they walked to the car or whatever. And when they got in the car, Ron was like, I really do appreciate you for bailing me out and all of that. And he was like, I'm sorry about, not wanting to embrace you publicly, but, I'm not out like that or whatever. And of course, Jerome was like, it's cool, man. Don't worry about it. I know you're not out like that or whatnot. And so, he was like, so man, what's going on? He was like, man, I was working at some place, but his boss had said something to him that made him mad, something about his sexuality or something. And he flies off and hit him. So he don't have no job. And then he was like, well, where do you want me to take you? And he was like, well, I mean, I stay with my mother, but she really don't like me as well because I'm gay. And it just hasn't been right since I was outed a year ago. It's just things has been kind of crazy for me. I've been down and depressed because of everything that I lost. I can't play basketball anymore because that's what I really loved. I have people looking at me sideways because I'm gay. Then I live with my mother. It's just a lot has been going on with me. I just haven't been doing too well. I've been flipping out and everything like that. And Jerome was like, man, I'm sorry to hear that, but I want you to know that you always have a place in me. I understand you, I don't judge you or anything like that. And I'll give you all the time you need to, come out. And these feelings started coming back. Like Ron started having these feelings resurface about Jerome because, all the times that Jerome tries to be there for him and how he actually does come through for Ron, that kind of softened him. And he really knew that Jerome would never out him. So he began to pull down that guard and they shared this moment. And Jerome started having these feelings as well, because he really did like Ron. But what can you do when Ron told him a year ago that I don't want to see you no more, lose my number? What could he do? And so he was just thinking in his mind, like, dang, I could be moving on to something else. And here I am wasting time with Big Papa. Big Papa's married. I'm tired of waiting on him, on his time frame, on when I can see him, whatever. I think I'm just going to leave him alone. Like, I'm not even going to mess with him no more. Maybe there's a possibility between me and Ron, which Ron is very young. Ron is like 20 years old. And I think Jerome is like in his late 30s or 40s or something like that. So there's an age gap there, but Ron is very mature or whatever. So something happened between them. They started seeing each other again. And he started being there for Ron. And of course, while Jerome is having this awesome relationship, getting back on good terms and good grounds with Ron, Big Papa, out of nowhere, he's calling, he's texting more than usual. And of course, Jerome he's tired of it. He's tired of it. So he hasn't been answering Big Papa's calls, his texts, none of that. And Big Papa's like, what? This Negro used to answer my every call, beck and call. Like, what's going on with this Negro? I'm trying to call him and he's busy doing this and that, and he ain't returning my phone calls or answering my calls. He's trying to figure out what's going on with Jerome. But Jerome, he's just fed up. So he's ready to take things further with this Ron guy. They're really feeling each other, vibing with each other. And so Jerome is just ready to go all the way. He, after listening to the things that Ron has gone through, he told Ron, he said, you know what? You don't have to feel like there's nothing available for you. He was like, I can help you with your career and everything like that overseas. I think in Rome or Italy or Spain, I think, to play ball overseas. And he was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, no, I'm not kidding you. Like, I have some connections and we can get you to start playing ball again. And he said, not only that, we can go live overseas, man. And Ron was like, don't play with me. Like, cause I mean, why would you do that? And Jerome was like, why not? Look, I mean, I fell out with my best friend. I lost my best friend. I really don't have no ties here. A man that I thought I loved really don't love me back. I don't have nothing here tying me here. Then I got this crazy stalker, because Peter was still stalking this Negro. Okay. Still bothering him, still harassing him or whatever. And so he was like, I really don't have no good memories here, no ties here. So I can move overseas. We can get our own place and you can take as long as you want before you come out. You don't have to come out. We don't have to be public. We can take our time. You can play ball again. We can be together and just start anew, afresh, just me and you. And Ron really, for the first time, he felt like, okay, yeah, like that actually could work. Like I'm with it. Let's do that. And so Jerome works on that. He actually purchased tickets for them. He already set up, he got him recruited to go out there and see dude that wanted to see him play, which pretty much he knew that he was in there. He was going to be playing ball over there. Like, he was ready. They was ready to move over to Spain to start a new life. And so cool. He was like, I'm going to pack my stuff and we could be on our merry way, because I'm just at this point, there's no ties. And so, Jerome goes back to his crib to get his things together. Of course, he left Ron at the room because they had been staying Ron had been staying. He put him in a hotel room because he knew things were kind of, sketchy between him and his mother. So he just put him up in the hotel room and they just been kicking it there, And plus, Jerome wanted to hide out there with him because with him hiding out there, for some reason, Peter never came around. Since he wasn't hanging at his house, Peter was nowhere in sight. So he was loving that. All that time that they were spending together in that room, being away from Peter, his stalker. So on this particular day, he was like, okay, cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go home, pack up my stuff, come back, and then we can be on our merry way. And so he goes home. When he goes home, he was like, what in the world, Big Papa? He noticed that his lights were on in this place. He was like, oh gosh, Big Papa didn't let himself in. So he goes in there. And Big Papa's there. He's trying to hug him and kiss him. And it almost worked, but it didn't. He held his ground. He was like, man, what are you doing here, man? And he was like, what do you mean? What am I doing here? I was thinking about you. I miss you, whatever. And he was like, oh, okay. And he was like, man, you not returning my phone calls. You've been busy. Like, what are you doing? He was like, look, I've been waiting on you for a long time and you just not able to give me what I want. He was like, what do you want? And he was like, I want you. You won't leave your wife or anything like that. He was like, are you sure you don't want me? Which Big Papa is only thinking about sex. Okay. He's not going to leave his wife. And so he was like, we have a good thing going. Like, why can't we do what we always done? We hook up. And of course, Jerome is like, that's not enough for me anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm in love. And Big Papa was really hurt. And he was like, oh, really? Like, you're in love? And he was like, yeah, like, he's a nice guy. He's single. He's a bit young, but we can have a future together. He's willing to give me something that I always wanted versus what you're offering me is just not enough anymore. And he was just he was really hurt because he was like, man, I love you. And Jerome wasn't buying this, what Big Papa was saying, because he was like, if you love me, leave your wife. Are you going to leave your wife? If you tell me, look me in my face right now and tell me that you love me the same way and you'll leave your wife, then maybe we could be. He couldn't do that. He's like, exactly. He was like, give me my key and just get your things. I want you to get your things and all of that because it's over. And I was so proud of Jerome in that moment because all these years, these 6 years that he had been messing with him, he was so weak to Big Papa. He always was right there at his beck and call. He would do anything for Big Papa, drop anything for Big Papa. And I was kind of happy for Jerome that finally he grew some balls and he said, it's over. I don't want to do this no more. And Big Papa was really hurt, but he had no choice but to respect that because he wasn't leaving his wife. And so Jerome was packing up his stuff, but as he was talking with Leon, Big Papa, I'm sorry, as he was talking to Big Papa or whatever, his phone kept vibrating, going off, and he would glance and look and see that it was Ron calling him. But he couldn't figure out. He was like, I don't know why I'll call him when I get to the car. But he was wasting time talking with this Negro, Big Papa. And so he was like, as soon as I get out of here, I'll call him or whatever. And so anyways, he get his stuff together. Of course, Big Papa leaves or whatnot. And when he gets to his car, he immediately tried to call him back, but Ron's phone was going to his voicemail. So he was like, dang, why he ain't answering? Probably ain't got reception or whatever. So anyways, he leaves a message. He was like, hey man, I'm sorry I had to handle something, but I'm on my way now. And then I'm also going to stop by and get us possibly some Italian food or something like that so we can have something to eat. I'll be there shortly. So anyways, he goes and he's getting his food or whatever. He goes up to the hotel and he noticed how the front desk clerk or whatever had this look on his face, and he was like, And Jerome was a little paranoid. He was like, "Oh no, like I'm just bringing food. I'm bringing some food back to my son," because he was thinking that people was gonna, figure out, put two and two together, that they were together, and he didn't want another episode and scene that they had a year ago. So he was like, "Yeah, I bought some dinner for my son," and they were looking like, "Man, we know that y'all together. Like it's cool. We know that y'all together." And he was trying to figure out, how do you guys know that we're together? He was like, the gentleman that you were in the room with, he was kind of upset. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, the front desk clerk was like, "Yeah, he was kind of upset when we showed him this." And when he looked at it, it was the newspaper once again saying that Ron was with some older gay man, that they was in a relationship. This was in the newspaper. And of course Jerome was like, "Oh God, here we are again." Just when things were getting good, we were working things out. I got some tickets for us to go off and live our lives, and then you show him this headline. Like, he was like, "You couldn't wait till I got back. Why did you show him that?" They was like, "We didn't know." Like, he was pretty upset when we showed him this. And so Jerome goes to the room, and he's expecting Ron to like totally just rip his face apart like he did a year ago. He goes in, he was like, "Ron, Ron, Ron, where are you, baby?" And he goes in there. He looked all in the room, looked everywhere. He couldn't see him. Then he goes into the bathroom. And when he goes into the bathroom, he sees Ron in the freaking tub. And Ron was limp. Now, this is a young boy. He's only 20 years old. He's limp in the tub. And his hand is just laying there. And he could see the empty pill bottles of where he was taking pills for his depression and anxiety, and they were empty. And he saw Ron just laying there, lifeless. And Jerome was so hurt and so devastated that he didn't answer the phone when Ron was calling him. He was like, "Oh God, this is why he was calling me. He was texting me. It was because he was trying to talk to me during his crisis. He was having a crisis and he was freaking out." This boy then committed suicide. And Jerome took that very hard. He was crying. He knew that he was gone, that this boy was gone. There was no coming back. His boy was lifeless. He was just gone. And so he called the ambulance and they took him. And of course, he didn't make it. Ron did not make it. And he was like, he knew who was back behind the article. It was nobody but Peter. And he was just devastated. Like, he was so hurt because finally he had found someone that he thought that he can go off and have a life with. And here he was, he's gone. And he felt bad that here you have this young boy who was just trying to figure it out, was getting ready to get his life together. How his life was just snatched away from him. And he was only 20 years old. He wasn't even out the closet. He didn't get a chance to experience love. He didn't get a chance to experience his dream or his life. So he's feeling really bad. And he just didn't want to be bothered. He just didn't want to be bothered with anybody. And he wasn't for a while. And of course, Peter is just having the time of his life because, he's always stalking him. This was horrible. So that's that on that. That's crazy. Anyways, that was sad. That was sad. Even though they are two gay lovers, that was heartbreaking. So anyways, now Michael and Lorraine, what ended up happening, of course, Michael is tired of Lorraine playing these games, but she's trying to work it out with her husband. But she can't seem to leave Michael alone, especially after what Leon had told her about the, sleeping with or having a sexual relationship with, his aunt and all of that. That was a bit too much, and they were still having problems and different things like that. And then she just couldn't get over it. But like I told you, Jerome, stalker Peter, he stalks him. But of course, when he was spending all that time with Ron, of course, he didn't know where he was. That's why he put that in the newspaper, because he just figured that they were together. Now, Peter keeps tabs on everything. He knows everything. And it was his mission to find out who Big Papa was. Okay. He was determined because he did not know who Big Papa was. But this man, I think what he does for a living, he's like a reporter, and he's able to find out any type of information. Like, he's very skilled at what he does. And so this is where things get crazy. So Michael and Lorraine, they're still seeing each other. She's still sleeping with him or whatever. And she's just going back and forth, just playing with him, right? And so, her husband, Leon, still going to his sessions, but this particular session, for some reason, the therapist couldn't see him that particular day. So he was like, dang, I can't have a session with her, so I'm going to be alone, because I think Lorraine said she had a meeting with her colleagues or something like that. So he said, shoot, I'm going to be alone. I don't know what to do. So I think I'll go to this location to go get some food, some really nice food, so he can have a nice meal at home or whatnot. So he's driving or whatever. He's driving or whatnot, feeling good, just reflecting on the progress that he had made with the therapist, and getting better and coming to terms with some things that he forgot and erased out of his mind. And he's driving and whatever. And he happens to glance over. He sees this woman who looked just like his wife, Lorraine. He was like, dang, that looked a lot like my wife. And so he goes up a little further. He was like, wait a minute, because I know I ain't crazy. He pulls up when they get to the stop sign. He pulls up and he looks, and he was like, oh no, she don't look like Lorraine. It is Lorraine. He started yelling, and he seen who she was with. She was with Michael. He was like, oh, he started going off like, what is she doing? He was like, get your butt up out that car. Get out that car. And they didn't care that the cars behind them was honking when the light turned green or none of that. Like, immediately. And then Lorraine just looking stupid with her mouth all open, like, oh my gosh, how he was supposed to be at his therapy session. Like, what is he doing? I know he ain't following me. Anyway, she knew she had to hop on up out of that car, and she hopped in her husband's car. He was so angry. He was like, here I am going through therapy, trying to get my life together and our marriage together, and while I was doing that, you up here sleeping with the same nigga that got us in all this mess in the first place. You with that nigga? He was like, you know what, you lucky I've been going to therapy, because he wanted to knock her lights out. And she's steady more trying to lie, even though this nigga caught her. She was like, it's not what you think. I can explain. She was trying to diffuse the situation. She was like, it's not what you think, just calm down. He was like, are you crazy? What do you mean it's not what I think? What I know is you was in there, you screwing that nigga. You been screwing him the whole time. This is you talking about be celibate, this celibacy thing. I know why now. I know why now. You wanted to sleep with that nigga. You didn't want to dib that back and forth between sleeping with him and me. He was like, you trifling, you trifling. So anyways, he driving home. And of course, Michael is on a trail. He following them or whatever. He follows them to the house. They're arguing, they're tussling or whatever. And Michael's like, you love me. Go ahead and tell your husband that you leaving him for me. And she was like, no, just stop, Michael, stop. Just leave. Just leave. Just leave. And of course, the husband, like, he better leave or I'm going to go in this. He is not going to be good. You better tell him to leave. So Leon goes in the house. And Lorraine is trying to tell Michael, look, just get in your car and leave. Get in your car and leave. Now, mind you, remember Michael, he bought a gun. And when she was getting out of the Michael's car, he was reaching in the glove department for the gun. So she got him to leave. Michael gets in his car and he left. And she has to go in there and talk to Leon. The thing that made me angry about Lorraine is she kept lying. He was like, you seen him? You seen him? She was like, no, it's not what you think. We're not seeing each other. She just keep lying. This is what makes me angry about her. She just kept lying. Just kept lying. And he just couldn't believe how she was just going on and on and on and on with all this lying. And so, they're arguing. And then I think Lorraine wanted to go out to clear her head or whatever. I don't know. He calmed down. And he was like, he still was trying to work out the marriage. Even back behind that, he was like, we gonna work this out, but I'm putting tabs on your car. I'm putting tabs on your phone, everything. I need to, because you broke this trust. I'm still going to try to work out this marriage, but you broke this trust. So he's really like on her like white on rice. And so she started doing good. She started coming home on time. Like she was on a schedule. Like she couldn't do nothing. And she did stay away from Michael. She actually changed her number. She changed her number and all that. So Michael cannot get in contact with her. So he's pretty pissed off. He can't get in contact with her. He tried to call her at work. And of course the receptionist was like, she's not available. He was like, listen, I know she's available because I know, trust me, I know. Put her on the phone. You tell her either she put me on the phone or I'm going to come up there. And so the receptionist said, hold on. She talked to Lorraine. Honey, when that receptionist got back with him, she was like, Lorraine says that if you were to come up here, then you are going to be removed from the premises and you're going to have a restraining order and you're not to come nowhere near her. At this point, Michael, he is pissed off because for one thing, you changed your number. I can't call you. Then you tell me that you're going to have some police escort me out if I try to come see you. You're not talking to me. None of that. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then he told her he's not responsible for the outcome, for his actions. He's not responsible. So, but like I said, Lorraine is on the, he even comes by to pick her up from work, or he's tracking her. Her husband is tracking her. She has to be home at a certain amount of time. She's there. She's really behaving and complying and all of that. And then, this one particular day when she was running a little late, she was wondering why he hadn't called her to see where she was at. But she was running a little late and she goes in the house just waiting. She knew it was going to be a war. Okay. When she got in, she was going to hear his mouth. But when she got in, she didn't see him sitting right there, standing right there. She was like, oh, maybe he fell asleep. And so she was like, I got dinner. I stopped to get dinner. That's why I was running late. Honey, honey, honey. And she's looking all around the house, honey. She opens that room and it was dim or whatever. And she sees her husband on the floor with something leaking out. She turned on that light. Her husband is shot like 4 times in the chest and he's bleeding. And she was like, oh my gosh. She just assumed that it was Michael because he had a gun. He purchased the gun. She saw him have the gun. She was like, oh my God, he's been shot. So, of course, she calls 911. And, of course, she gets to the hospital. They take him to the hospital. She calls Egypt. Egypt is there for her. Then Egypt decided to call Jerome. Now, Lorraine she fell out with Jerome, remember? Her and Jerome are no longer friends, but it had been a year. At this point, she didn't care. When Egypt called Jerome, she was like, look, I know y'all haven't talked for a while, but you need to get up here to this emergency room. Leon, her husband's been shot. I know you guys don't have the best of relationship, but get up here. She really needs you. I know it's been a while, but come up here. So Jerome stop everything he doing. Actually, he was supposed to have a date that night. He had decided that, okay, I need to get my life in order because that his lover, Ron, he died by suicide. So he decided that he was going to meet someone his age and someone who was openly gay. So he was supposed to have a date that night, but that got cut short. He went to the hospital. And of course, when Lorraine saw him, she didn't care about anything that happened between them a year ago because she figured like at this point, it doesn't even matter. And besides, he was trying to help me because he loved me as a friend. And so when Jerome hugged her, it was like everything that was unspoken all that time frame, that year worth of time is like everything let's just put it behind us. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be friends again. And so he was there with her to console her. He was like, what's going on? And she was like, I don't know. Leon's been shot. And of course, Jerome at this point, he didn't want to feel happy inside that her husband's been shot. Like, even though he didn't like him, he felt really bad. He felt genuinely bad that her husband was shot. He didn't want her husband to die or get shot or anything like that. And so his condition is pretty bad. He's in the ICU. They had to do emergency surgery to pull the bullets out. And of course, the doctors were, telling her that, we just gonna have to keep an eye on it or whatever. And of course, some detectives come in and they was like, hello, do you know if your husband had any enemies? And of course, she didn't want to let the detectives know that she was having an affair on her husband. And so they was like, can you please talk? Because this is very important. And she was like, well, it's this guy, Michael, that I was seeing. And of course, they kind of judged her a little bit like, you have a boyfriend and your husband is fighting for his life. Okay. But anyways, they was like, okay, so you were seeing someone on the side. Okay, what's his name? She gives the name, the information. They go over to Michael's house. And of course, Michael's in his house. He's painting something in his backyard. And so the police banging on the door. He was like, dang, I know that. Dang, that's Lorraine. It's got to be Lorraine. Because, well, see, during that time when he wasn't able to get in contact with Lorraine, Michael, like I said, he would stalk them, and he knew that Lorraine's husband, Leon, was going to that therapist. This Negro, Michael, just got desperate and he got angry, and he went up there to that therapist office and burglarized it and messed it up and stole those private files, those medical files on her husband. And he, with the information that he saw in them files, he knew for sure that it was going to be over. He had a lot of things on Lorraine's husband, Leon, that he knew it was over. There was no hope for Lorraine and Leon anymore with what he has in those files. So he just knew that that was Lorraine, that, you know, she was there to be with him. So he was like, dang, this is quicker than what I thought. This got to be her. So when he opened the door, it was the detectives. He was like, oh man, dang, what in the world? And it was like, hi, can we come in? He was like, I don't know what's going on, but can you tell me what's going on? He was like, well, we're doing an investigation. Lorraine's husband has been shot. And we need to ask you some questions because it comes to find out we know that you have been seeing her. So when's the last time you saw her? Blase, blase. They questioning him and they like, we know also that you have a gun, correct? And he didn't deny. He was like, yeah, I got a gun. And they was like, what type of gun? I think he said a 22 something automatic. And they was like, that's strange because those are the same bullets that we found in him. So he's like panicking at this point. He was like, well, I'm not saying anything further until I get a lawyer. And they was like, well, why do you need a lawyer if, you know, you're innocent? And then also they was looking around and they saw that he had some evidence there. And so they arrest him. They said, you know, we're going to have to arrest you for the murder of Leon. We just gonna have to arrest you. So they arrest him. They take him down to the station, okay, with their evidence or whatever, because they found the files, those personal medical files that Michael had taken from the therapist's office. And they was like, well, it looked like to me that this is enough evidence to cuff you, because why would you have personal medical confidential information here? You stole these files, so yeah, you're our number one culprit. Cuff him. Let's take him down there. So he's down at the station. Now, while he's down at the station, of course, it flips back to Jerome and Lorraine, and of course, they're waiting to hear word on Leon's condition. And so the doctors come out and they say, well, you know, he's still pretty much, he's on a respirator and we don't know the extent of the brain damage and or whatever. So we're going to have to check his brain out. It could be a long recovery. But he did have in the papers there not to resuscitate him if things got bad and you need to make a decision. You don't have to make one today, but you're going to have to make a decision on whether to pull the plug or not. But I mean, if he be okay in 24 hours, then he might be able to make it, but we don't know if he's going to come back a vegetable or not. And so she was like, well, it's not really good news, but at least he's still fighting. And so Jerome is just there trying to console her, and he felt bad for her, whatever. And so, of course, they allow visitors to come back to see him. They go back there. And, you know, Jerome, even though he didn't like the dude, he felt bad for his friend. You know, it's unfortunate that they had to reconnect under these circumstances. So he's just there with her. And she was like, I just can't believe it. You know, honey, she's talking to Leon, you know, you're here in this hospital. I'm going to be here for you. And I'm sorry that this happened. It's all my fault. If I had not been messing around with that man, we wouldn't be in this predicament. And now you're laying up in the hospital. It's just all my fault. I just can't. I need a breather. I need to go out and get something. She said, I'm going to have to go get something to eat to take my mind off of this. And so Jerome was like, it's okay. You can go ahead and go. I'll you know, stay here with him. Okay. It's okay. Just go and I'll be here with him, and I'll be here when you get back or for however long you need me. And she was like, thank you so much. So she goes out and she's on her way to go get something to eat. But then she remembered, oh my gosh, I left my freaking wallet at the hospital. So when she's in the car, whatever, she has to turn back around and she has to go back up there because she had left her wallet. And so she gets back, and before she stepped in the room, she started listening because she heard Jerome by her husband's bedside, but Jerome didn't know that anybody was standing right there. And so he was like, "Man, I'm sorry that this has happened to you, man, and I know we haven't always got along. I wish things could have been different. But if something do happen to you, I'll make sure that she marries another man that is good for her. And of course, Lorraine was just smiling like, dang, he's such a good friend. Like, I know how much he didn't like my husband, but he's actually stepping up to the plate and being supportive for me when I couldn't really stand for myself. And then this Negro says something that stopped her dead in her track because she was getting ready to walk in and say, "Oh," he says, "I wish things could have been different between me and you. I love you. And I wish I would have said I loved you back when you was trying to come back to me. I love you always." And he called him Big Papa. I almost fell out. I almost fell out because all this time, this Negro was messing with Leon. See, what was in those files with that therapist? Michael knew it was over in her marriage when he read that Leon was in fact homosexual or bisexual, and that he was in love with a man, and that Big Papa, okay, is in fact Leon, that they were together for 6 years. 6 years. This Negro, this low down dirty rat, I thought the whole time that Leon was a good man, that was the only reason why he was ejaculating so quick or coming so quick and having those little sexual problems, is because this Negro was molested by his aunt and being beat by his uncle. But no, this man was cheating on his wife the whole time that they were pretty much married. He's been in love with a man the whole time, having sex with a man. And of course, when Lorraine heard this and she heard Jerome say Big Papa, she said, "You mother effer. It was you all along. How dare you? How dare you?" And Jerome had the audacity to square her up. He was like, yeah, that's true. We do love each other. We always have loved each other. We did." She was like, "I can't believe you all this time that I thought you was my friend. All this time that I thought you was having my back, and why you didn't want us to be together. You didn't want us to be together because you was in love with him and he was in love with you." She was like, I hate you. Like, I can't believe that all this time the only reason why you was friends with me is because you wanted him for yourself. That's why you tried so hard to get us to be separated and all that. She was like, "You know what? You can have him." And she said, "I'm going to change in here. You do what you want with him. You either resuscitate him or not, but I'm going to put on him here next to Ken because y'all can have each other. I don't want to be with no man that's in love with another man and having sex with another man and all this and that." I was, honey, when I tell you, I did not expect this nor suspect that they were sleeping together. I didn't even know Leon was gay. Let alone, I didn't even know Leon was cheating. They just made him look like this angel. And for him to be in love with a man and was cheating on her the whole time, I began to get angry at Leon. I was like, all this time that she could have been with a man who really loved her and who actually liked vagina, who's straight man, heterosexual, who could give her something that she always wanted. was right there at the palm of her hands. And you going to these therapy sessions and all this and that. I'm thinking he trying to work on their marriage when he's trying to figure out what's going on with him. And he's gay the whole time. You know what? I know she wanted to just go ahead and pull the plug on that Negro. Don't let him make it. So anyways, she was like, just put on there next to Ken. Y'all can have each other. I'm done, and I'm done with you. She leaves there, and she was like, dang, but then Michael, now he's going to be locked up. He's going to go to jail, and I'm not going to have nobody. So she leaves there. And she tries to, I think she goes to the station, the precinct. She goes to the police station, and she saw Michael coming out, and she was like, "What are you doing, Michael? Like, they took you in, they arrested you, and for questioning of the murder of, or the shooting of, or attempted murder of my finna be ex-husband." He was like, "It's okay. Like, they're done. I'm free to go. I didn't kill him. I didn't try to kill him. I didn't shoot him at all." And she was like, "But you had the gun. They said they had evidence." And the police station was able to watch on his surveillance camera that, in fact, during the hours where Leon had got shot, he was in fact at his house, like he said, painting and doing all of that at his house. And they had that on camera. So there was no way that he was tied to that murder. Even though he did have the same gun where the bullets matched, he didn't shoot Leon. He was not the culprit. And so, come to find out, who it actually was that stalker, Peter. Because remember when I told you Peter was determined to find out who Big Papa was and who Big Papa is? He found out finally who he was, and he went there and he shot him. Of course, he wanted to kill the man that is in love with the man that I love, so he shot him or whatever and everything like that. And yeah, Leon did not make it. I think 2 weeks after that incident, or a week or something, he didn't make it. He ended up dying. And that really hurt Jerome. And he was devastated. And then, of course, when Lorraine and Michael were talking outside of the police station, he was like, "Of course, I know you probably already know about your husband being bisexual or gay and different things like that." And she was like, "Yes, I'm not going back to that place. I don't love him. I don't want to be with him. You are my home. You are who I want to be with, and let's be together forever." So I'm glad that Michael wasn't the one who shot Leon, and that they can actually be together. And I'm glad that she's able to get a real love. And she deserves to be with Michael. He's a good guy. And I'm glad that he didn't turn out to be a killer. Yeah, he was stalking her a little bit and very persistent and adamant about having her, but he wasn't a killer. And she didn't think that he was a killer either. So I'm glad that worked out. Now, with Jerome, of course, he knew that after he lost the love of his life, Big Papa, Leon, he died. He didn't know what was going on with his life. He lost his friend again, and it's unfortunate that under those circumstances, she found out that, they were having an affair. They were sleeping with each other. And he was just reflecting on his life like, dang, back behind this mess, Big Papa's gone. Ron is gone, who I really cared about. I don't have anyone. And so he decided that he was going to call Peter. He had plans for Peter. So he met him up at this place where people are known to commit suicide at this place. Now, as the writer was writing it, I was like, what in the world? I know he ain't finna jump off this bridge and commit suicide. But of course, he was like, relax, I'm not here to commit suicide. I have to finish this one final thing before I move on with my life. And so, of course, Peter comes up there and he was like, you wanted to see me. I know you didn't want to come see me to have sex. So what's up? And he was like, I just want to know why. He was like, man, you don't think for one second that I'm stupid. Like, you got to be wired. You're probably wired, and there's probably police officers all around here. He's like, I don't trust you. I love you, but I don't trust you. And he was like, I'm not wired, which he was not wired. And and Peter checks him to make sure he wasn't wired. He was like, okay, well, dang, I can relax now. And so Jerome was like, why'd you do it, man? He was like, I told you, because if I can't have you, no one else will. I'm in love with you. You should have known that we should be a couple. We were meant to be. We should have been together, but you couldn't see it. So if I can't have you, no one else can have you. It was so easy killing Ron. I knew he was a weak link, and how he knew that if he made that newspaper headline that he would probably kill his own self. So that was too easy. And then he said, "Damn with Big Papa." He said, "You're a mother effing creep to be sleeping around with your best friend's husband. Like, do you even have a conscience?" He was like, "You're low down and dirty for sleeping with your best friend's husband. Like, you're sick. You're sick. Like, how could you do that, man? That's the lowest of the low." And he's like, of course, I was determined to find out who he was. And I was just so shocked when it was him. Out of all people, you're going to be in love with him. He was just throwing in Jerome's face everything that he was doing. And so Jerome was like, man, that's, you knew I loved him. And he was like, just like I love, Peter was like, just like I love you. You knew that I love you and was in love with you, and you hurt me. So it's well deserved, don't you think? And he was like, man, whatever. And so he made this like little motion, this cue for the person that he was going to have him help with getting rid of Peter. So the person that he called upon was the guy. Remember the guy that he was seeing that gave him the Rolex? I think his name is Freddie. Freddie came, and they together, they picked him up. Now Peter cannot swim, and they were up on this high bridge, and this is a known place where people, like I said, commit suicide. So they picked him up and they tossed him over the thing, and they knew for sure that once they tossed him over, he pretty much hit his head, was gonna be drowned in those currents and in that water or whatever. And so he thanked Freddie. He was like, thank you so much. And he was like, cool. He's like, so when can we hook up again? And then of course, Jerome was like, man, you know what? It's going to be a while before I can hook back up. Just, I need some time. And Freddie was like, it's well deserved. I understand, because after what you've been through, I totally get it. And so how they were able to get back at Peter, Freddie is a computer whiz and genius, and he's able to get into accounts. So what they did was went on Peter's Facebook account, and they put a status up acting as if it was Peter writing a suicide note saying that I'm tired of life. I'm tired of everything. I'm ready to end it all. Goodbye, people. And so genuinely, it looked like he pretty much put it out there that he was going to commit suicide. So the way that they did that was so smooth, where it can't be traced or tracked back to them of being the culprits of why he's dead. So I mean, in a way, I felt kind of bad for Peter, but not so much, because Peter actually had people killed. He harassed people. He terrorized people. And although he was in love with Jerome, I think he taught Jerome a lesson that needed to be taught. Like, you don't play games with people. You don't play with people's emotions. And what goes around comes around. Like, karma really got Jerome back in the butt. And it not only got him back, it caused him to lose everything. People's lives were lost. people's relationships were torn apart. Like, he really done some damage. Like, I really don't have no respect for Jerome. But I respect the fact that Peter did teach Jerome a lesson. It's unfortunate he's dead now, but in Jerome's mind, there was no way that Peter was going to leave him alone. So he had to kill him. He had to kill Peter, because even locking Peter up was not going to be good enough. He needed to make sure that he was dead. So it kind of makes me wonder what is going to happen with Jerome. I guess with the way that it ended, with Freddie asking him, hey, let's hook up again, and Jerome saying that he needs some time, lets me further know he's probably still going to be messing with married men, and just probably going to come to terms with that he possibly will never fall in love, because the love of his life is dead. Big Papa, aka Leon, is dead. So that's the way that ended. And then I'm glad that Lorraine and Michael, she actually has the love of her life and a man that genuinely loves her and is into her. Now, all the other peoples in this series, they said no more things about any of the characters. They didn't say anything about all the other people that I read about. Like, it's pretty much a done deal. I was wishing and hoping that there could have been a better ending where I could have known about all the characters and what they were doing, how they are in life. But I guess we can kind of like put that together ourselves. But that is the end of this series. I really enjoyed reading this, Torn Between Two Lovers, from Carl Weber. And I hope you guys enjoyed this series, and you guys be easy. Ciao. Bye bye.